Hello, and welcome back. This week we have the message from Tony.R. He gives us an overview of the four Gospels, explaining how each author offers a unique perspective on the life and identity of Jesus. He touches on Mark's dynamic action, Luke's scholarly focus on salvation, Matthew's connection to Jewish prophecy, and John's theological emphasis on Jesus as the Son of God. I hope you find this podcast interesting. If you do, give us a like so we know. God bless. See you next time.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we've got a stack of notes based on a sermon from January 11th, 2026. And our mission is to answer a pretty huge question. Why wasn't just one biography enough to cover the entire life of Jesus? Like, why do we need four distinct personalities just to get the full story?
Yeah, that is the central question right there. The deep dive here really explores how a single account is just inevitably one-sided. Yeah. So to get the actual reality of the situation, you kind of need those four different perspectives combined.
Right. It's like if you're looking at, a major historical event, you want four witnesses, not just one. So let's unpack these four personalities because they're drastically different. Starting with Mark. The notes call this one the dynamic version.
Exactly. Mark is, he's short, punchy, and super action-oriented. He focuses heavily on Jesus as the Son of Man. It's really not about long theological speeches at all. It's about the action.
And there's this incredible anecdote from the source material about the war in Ukraine. Back in 2026, Ukrainian soldiers on the front lines were apparently given copies of Mark's Gospel specifically to help them, like mentally and spiritually, as they fought to repel the Russian invasion.
Which really makes total sense when you think about it. If you're out there on the front lines, you don't have the bandwidth for long genealogies. Yeah. You need that immediate urgency.
Yeah, that punchy, resilient energy.
Right, exactly. You need God right there in the crisis.
Yeah.
But then you flip over to Luke, and he's a completely different character. He's really the scholar of the group.
Yeah, totally. And Luke was the only non-Jewish writer, right? He was writing specifically for Gentiles.
Yes, for non-Jews. So he writes this very orderly, thoroughly researched account. There's even this fascinating theory out there that his writings, meaning the Gospel and the book of Acts, might have been used as a literal legal defense for St. Paul when he was charged in Rome.
Wow, so he wasn't just telling a nice story. He was presenting formal evidence to the Roman Empire to prove this movement wasn't a political threat. Then we have Matthew, who's described in the notes as the bridge.
Right, Matthew is the bridge for the Jewish readers. He focuses on Jesus as the King of the Jews, constantly pointing back to prove how he is the direct fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy.
He's just checking all those historical boxes for his audience. Which brings us to John, the theological heavy hitter.
Yeah, John is writing 10+ years later, so he's actively combating early heresies and falsehoods about who Jesus was that were already spreading. He focuses purely on Jesus as the Son of God.
So if Mark is the action movie, John is the deep documentary. And the source zooms in on his prologue in chapter 1, comparing it to a musical overture.
I love this analogy so much. When you sit down at an opera, the overture plays at the very start and gives you a brief snatch of all the different tunes that are coming later in the show. John chapter 1 does exactly that for his entire gospel.
And one of those main tunes, so to speak, is light. But the source defines light a bit differently than just, a comforting, warm glow. It says light reveals the mess.
Right. Think of a messy house. You can only clean up the muck if the light is bright enough to show you where the muck actually is. Light is a tool for revealing reality.
And that ties right into what the notes call the light of life connection. There's this biological analogy about a seedling in Paul's scene.
Yes. Just like that seedling requires physical light to simply survive and photosynthesize, the argument is that the human spirit requires spiritual light in the exact same way to grow.
It's basically a biological necessity, which finally brings us to a really tough pill to swallow regarding rights.
This is definitely heavy. We talk about human rights constantly today, but the text argues that humans actually have zero inherent rights before God.
None at all.
None. The only right mentioned is the right to become children of God, and that's granted strictly through belief. It's not something you inherently possess.
So it's a gift you accept, not a right you demand. That leaves us with a really provocative question for you listening. Is the unfailing love and faithfulness described here something you experience daily, or just a concept you visit on Sundays?
That is the big challenge, taking it from Sunday theory to Monday reality.
Exactly. And building on that messy house analogy, if that revealing spiritual light suddenly shined on the mundane routines of your own week today, what kind of hidden muck might it force you to finally clean up? Something to explore on your own. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.